Namaste. Nice to see you again.
Namaste, David. Lovely to see you as well. I'm happy we worked that out. I'm very excited for our Dharma download session today.
Yeah.
Had a lot of people over the last week or so ask. Oscar's one of them. Whether we could open things up and ask you a few questions
Yeah.
about about everything. So I'm excited for this session.
Good. So we start off with a little talk about the illusion, Maya.
Exactly, exactly. I'd love to get your take on this major concept within the tradition, which is Maya, illusion. Um, really, in regards to what are we actually talking about here? Is it that I personally feel that our human experience is something that is very, very real. That it's not that it's unreal. It's just that it's perhaps not the whole truth.
Yeah.
And so I just love to get your take on the way that you see, experience Maya, and really how I guess the ultimate question is how do we live within it or move beyond it? How do we coexist with this concept?
I think we need to look at the bigger picture of reality. I mean, if you are having a dream at night and you're in that dream, you are having an experience, right?
Right,
So in the same way, we are here having this experience, and the human experience is pretty vast and ongoing, and can go through lifetimes, etc. But then it comes to an end. And what is the end? I mean, you're all of a sudden your body goes into decomposing, and your consciousness goes where? So yoga addresses this, and if you look at the ancient traditions, Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Living and Dying. It's all about going beyond. That's the bigger picture. That in Western education, we don't even look at that at all. I just don't want to die and to do anything to stop the death process, but it's inevitable. It's just a doorway that you go through, and you go into this other realm, which can be more dreamlike. So back to the dream you have at night. When you wake up, the dream's over. So I really, when we wake up from this dream, we leave the dream. The other participants in the dream are still going on with it. But where do we go when we have left? We're in another dimension, another reality. So what is reality? And this is the question that Samkhya philosophy discusses, the step down from consciousness all the way down to the real material existence that we're here in, and how to deal with that. Now I'm going to bring in something else. I sent you that copy of this book. It's 400 pages. Possibly you haven't read the whole thing.
possibly, but I did have a little look through it. It looks super interesting.
Yeah, it is, and it's pointing out exactly what the yoga has been saying about the illusion. Is that you're looking at me? Okay, you're looking at an image of me on the screen, but if we were in person, you're looking at me, and your senses are giving you the shape and the sound of my voice and the feeling of hanging out with me or something.
Hmm.
But what you're seeing is the shape and the form of something which the senses cannot perceive. And that goes into what am I actually made of and what are you made of? And you go back, sink into the body, you've got glands and organs, they're made of cells. The cells are made of molecular structures, the molecules are made of atoms. And in science, they've looked deeply into all of this, and they're saying, well, actually, the atoms are really far apart, and there's all this space in between. So the reality that we're dealing with here is something that completely transcends the senses, but this is the reality of this is at the subatomic particles of the atoms. It's vibration of energy. Everything is made of vibrating energy, and that's not how we see the world
Hmm.
unless you take a massive dose of ayahuasca or something. Everything kind of melts down into a different perception.
Mm. We actually in the group that I'm working with at the moment, we had this conversation, and I guess my feeling is that ayahuasca and psychedelics and things like that can be really helpful in peeling back that veil of illusion and giving us a little momentary glimpse into that broader spectrum of experience. But ultimately, we want to become increasingly more self-reliant, and even though it's a little bit slower, I feel that if we take the more yogic approach to it, then the effects become more enduring, and just slowly we start to see more and more, 1% extra, 2% extra, slowly. And that in my opinion is the ideal way to do it. But it can be helpful to have a little bit of a boom experience in the beginning days just to crack open the mind a little bit.
Yeah, agreed, and that's part of what the shamanistic cultures have been teaching for thousands of years. Before the modern day of everything becoming illegal. It's all becoming legal again now, but
Hmm.
still, and in my own experience, it was a psychedelic experience that first showed me the inner world of chakras and vibrations, and that's what motivated me to go to India.
Yep.
And the cool thing about Swami Gitananda is what he was teaching us is that it brought us to this place of achieving kind of a psychedelic vision that was trippy and expanding the consciousness beyond the normal mindset, which allows you to see these things. And ideally, in yoga, you're not tripping out and having hallucinations. You're going into a more meditative state, which is the reality of it, and you
Mhm.
see things. The inner vision opens up, and these mandalas that I painted of the chakras and that are not made up. They are seen on the inside, and this was part of the training at Ananda Ashram, is the opening up of inner vision, and it's pretty trippy. It's psychedelic, but we didn't use anything. Well, coffee. And ideally, what I have found in my experience is that this state of consciousness is not that far away, but it requires the yogic discipline. You have to be seriously practicing yoga every day to get to this place at a stable, it's in stability. So it's not eating too much, not sleeping too much, and practicing yoga, and particularly the breathing techniques and advanced breathing techniques like Pancha Sahita, and more than a 5 minute alternate nostril breathing thing. In Hatha Yoga Pradipika, they talk about doing minimum of 80 rounds of this with breath retentions on each one, which is going to take you 2 hours one sitting. And they say you need to do this 4 times a day.
Yeah.
So this is the yogic discipline. And when you're doing that, and I do these kind of things, I get up early in the morning and I start off with 108 rounds of breathing of different types. And it kind of sets my mind into this place of borderline somewhere between the dream state and reality. So there's a dreamlike quality that comes into the material world that we're living in. And as I go back to this, when you have a dream at night, that's kind of a real experience that you're having. And in the altering and raising of your consciousness, life itself becomes more fun, more dreamlike, more enjoyable, and your capabilities of molding the dream
Hmm.
increase. Again, going back to the quantum physics aspect, what they're discovering, have discovered for 100 years. We are participating in this illusion. And they are also calling it an illusion because our senses deceive us. We're not seeing the reality. You see the form and the shape of my body, but not what it's made of. It would be scary if
Yeah.
you suddenly saw what it was made of. And there's a passage in the Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna is begging Krishna, show me your
Show me your
reality.
face. Yeah, yeah,
And when he sees, he goes, oh shit, yeah, that's too
yeah.
much. And all of a sudden melt down into particle physics and waves of possibilities, and it's all pretty definitely, I would call it psychedelic.
Mhm.
It's moving energy fields. So this is the reality of the universe. It's made of energy fields. We just don't see that energy.
Mhm.
And what they're saying and seeing in physics is that there is so much energy everywhere here coming in from everywhere in the universe. If we could tap into this, we'd be immensely powerful. They're trying to find the technology to tap into it, but we as humans have, we are that technology. It's all energy. And we
Absolutely.
have an energy body. We have nadis and the nervous system that are like antenna that can pick up on this. That's where you get into the Laya Yoga Kriyas. Did you play
Yeah,
with?
I checked out Layer Korea number one. I can see where that's going. I was like, oh my god, this is one of six. Are you kidding me?
The six are designed to set up the pattern,
Yeah.
and then the energy starts moving in that pattern, and your chakras align with these patterns, and it generates a flow, which is, I mean, this is a big part of what we did at the ashram. Was this
Mm,
was the highlight of the course, is playing with the energy. You have to bring your mind to a place of being sensitive and aware of this energy. You feel it, and in inner vision, you see it. For a lot of people, it might take a little bit of time to get to that place, but you can practice it, and you get better at noticing the feeling of these energies going up and down your spine and going around you in these chakra vortexes. So it's a question of taking your attention into a different place. Like you take your attention, your consciousness, you can go into a dream and you're having the experience of the dream. In yoga, you're going into the experience of the internal chakras, for which the prerequisite is the pratyahara, where you're withdrawing from the outer senses, which they, rightly say is the senses are showing you the illusion. And we are all living in that illusion and we're functional in it and it seems to be real while we're in it. But we're not in it forever,
mhm.
you know? And then what? So this is the before and after of the yoga and the ancient traditions, which were very much concerned with the before and after, because this is just a little piece, a lifetime in the middle. And in traditional Indian philosophy, of course, how many lifetimes do you have? You just keep bouncing back until you get the whole picture. So the illusion,
Mhm.
scientific reality is we are not seeing the reality.
Why do you think that's an inbuilt function of reality? I mean, for most people, they come in and it's pretty cloaked. The curtain is pretty thick.
Yeah,
What do you? I mean, I believe that the universe, universal consciousness, whatever we want to call it, I feel there's a benevolence there that it's always on our side, even though it puts us through the ringer sometimes. But I'm sort of wondering, what do you think is the positive function or the overall purpose or function of cloaking our minds in such a way when the majority of us are born, onto this planet? We don't well, I mean, maybe as babies we do act, as kids we probably do actually see things very, very clearly, but most of us will go through this process of forgetting that bigger sense of reality. What do you think is the purpose of that? Is there a purpose of that?
well, I mean, the universe is, in a sense, creating and manifesting a beautiful world. If you're living out here in the jungle, it's quite beautiful, and we are the observers of the creation. And this is the purpose of it is creating this Garden of Eden and then placing us in it. Hey, enjoy. And while we're here, we enjoy the fruits of everything that is here. And it's just made for the fun, like a child playing a game and building a sandcastle and whatever. And as the co-creators, which they're now seeing in physics, and we are, our mind and our expectation, our observation of reality is materializing this reality into what it is. Otherwise, the atoms and molecules dissolve back into waves of possibility. And this is something you get into in advancing with yoga. What they call Kundalini is really seeing the energetic, that everything is made of energy, and we are directing that energy. For most people, it's being directed subconsciously
Mhm.
and under conscious intent. And that creates a problem that from the past experiences, we project what's going to happen in the future according to what we know in the past. We don't step into the unknown very much. And the waves of possibility in the unknown are kind of infinite. But when you, like you said, when you're a child, you first open your eyes to the world. You're not seeing anything that adults see. You're seeing a very uh, unfolding waves of energy and mandalas and things that then you learn to recognize the face of your mother and you learn to recognize things. This recognition thing is a big part of Patanjali's modifications of the mind.
Mhm.
Once you recognize something, you build up a memory of all these things you recognize, and then you're stuck with memories and possibilities according to your memory and what you know. So that's what stops us from going back to the beyond, rolling back into the childlike state of, whoa, I don't recognize anything. I'm just in this blissful field of colorful patterns and sound. So recognition, modifications of the mind. Recognition requires memory, it requires some experience, and then we're stuck in these modifications of the mind. And we have a hard time going beyond it.
Cool. Yeah, when I'm not running around stressing over work and all that sort of stuff, and I'm actually calm and in my center, I definitely feel like what you said about this world really being a playground as if we were children. And one of the ways that I sometimes interpret this idea of Maya and the illusion is almost like um, a, a treasure hunt. Like you don't get all the. It wouldn't be fun if you just turned up at the treasure hunt day and they just gave you all the treasure. That's not the fun.
Yeah,
Except
yeah.
in this case, the treasure is the self. And as we, scramble through the jungle and we find little pieces of ourself, and every time we catch a little bit more, it's this big, beautiful surprise and revelation and a lot of joy. And but from my perspective, I feel like that's what the soul really loves. It loves to have those experiences of self remembrance. But in order to have those, there has to be a treasure
Yeah.
hunt.
Cool. I like treasure hunts. And, I found that in my early years of traveling the world and going to India and then going to Mexico and living with the Guatemalan people, that I was finding pieces of this puzzle of humanity and of the chakras and the purpose of life scattered all over the world. And a big part of what I've done is bring this together and look at what are the similarities between the Mayan view of the chakras and the Hindu view, and they're completely compatible. They're saying the same kind of thing from different perspectives. But going and on this treasure hunt and finding these things was an amazing part of my life's journey, and it's still going ongoing. Now there's the whole scientific aspect, which is verifying all
Mm.
of everything is made of energy. So the world of chakras is not a mythical thing anymore. This is the reality. And science is still really discovering all of this stuff. It's not known yet. Many things are still in the unknown, even about how energy moves in the nervous system and whatnot. And Western medical science, for instance, has gone into the chemical nature of our being and how they can replace chemicals if they're not effective or whatever. But they still haven't looked at the quantum side of it. Actually, it's all energy. So this needs to go in there. And as yogis, we need to establish that and realize the energy fields in us are following the expectations of our mind and our observation of this. So we change our observation and look at the energetic aspect of it and look at mandalas that formats the energy into specific patterns that are known to be healthy, and we bring in flows of prana that are in ratios and rhythms that are known to turn on this chakra, that gland, this organ, etc. So learning to work with the energy world is very much a part of what we need to do, and what ancient civilizations were looking at this, and the energy and the consciousness that goes on, comes into the body and leaves the body. But it is supposed to be in good fun. And if you're living in nature in a little village on some tropical island that hasn't been convinced that materialism and consumerism is the goal, we can be living very happily, just enjoying nature and looking at the birds and the bees and the beautiful, colorful birds and whatnot. The thing is that we have a civilization that's shifted us and sidetracked us into this consumerism of getting a good job and making money and buying things, and who's profiting from all that is not really the people. It's the bankers who own the world. I think they own the world.
Not for much longer, David. Not for much longer.
Yeah, toppling over. But
Yes.
yeah, so I put up another video last night. YouTube just took it down within a half hour. I mentioned about about healing, and how we have the potential to create antibodies that take care of viruses, and you can't talk about health. This is like Yoga Alliance. They told me years ago, you can't say therapy, you can't say that you heal people with yoga. So all in
It's
good fun.
all in good fun. Exactly. All part of the dance. So,
Yeah.
David, I thought what we could do is maybe we'll have a couple of options for those of you guys who have questions. You can either write them in the chat. I'll read them out to David, then David can answer them. Or if you're okay, there's not a huge number of us here, so we can. I think it won't be too problematic. That if you want to actually talk on the camera, then we can just unmute you. So completely up to you. Either stick your hand up visually in your camera, or just write your question in the chat box, and we'll just work from both. So who's got a question for David?
Any question can be for Octavio.
Oscar. All right, here we go, man. I'll unmute you there.
How you doing, David?
Hello.
So you were just talking about the power of breathing, right? And we've kind of like touched on drugs and psychedelics. What impact do you think smoking has in terms of reaching your full potential as a human and levels of consciousness? Because obviously, probably more than anything, smoking contributes to restricting your breath. So I was just wondering, do you think smoking is therefore probably the worst drug, or I guess it is a drug, but the worst thing you can put into your body out of all the drugs and stuff like that?
You're talking about smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, cigarettes on this one, yeah.
Yeah, I think damaging your lungs is going to prevent you from achieving what you can achieve with the pranayama side of yoga. You need to have clean lungs, and in the breathing techniques and the kumbhaka, the retentions, when they're properly done, you're pushing the oxygen into the bloodstream because you're doing a retention. It puts a little more air pressure into the lungs. You're not only pushing oxygen into the bloodstream, but also nitrogen. Okay. The air we're breathing is 80% nitrogen, 20% oxygen. And these two, when they enter your bloodstream, the brain configures them into what's called nitrous oxide. This is called laughing gas in medical terminology. So this is something that you can do when your lungs are clean and there's nothing in the way from the air entering the bloodstream. Now, if you've been smoking, there's a little residue of tar coating some of the little, there's millions of little air bubbles called alveoli. And when they're not clean, the air has a hard time getting through. So you have a slower rate of oxygen absorption, a slower rate of carbon dioxide discharge because of the pollution of your lungs. It's like putting a sheet of tar over top of something and then you're trying to get water to go through it. It's not going to go through anymore.
So,
Depending on
so
how
do you
much
think?
you smoke,
Sorry,
sorry,
gone.
no, just saying, depending on how much you smoke, people are smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day, their lungs are pretty polluted. And it's not just for yogic purposes, but you cannot really have a healthy immune system if your lungs are not part of it. The lungs and heart and thymus gland are all part of that fourth chakra complex.
Do you think, because obviously cigarettes aren't mind altering, but do you think they're the most toxic thing you can put into your body then, from that perspective, as they probably have the biggest negative effect on your breathing?
Yeah, well, consider that the breathing is your fundamentals. You stop breathing, you're dead pretty soon. So if you're inhibiting the breath from functioning properly over a period of time, you're going to end up with a variety of problems connected to that. It's the main source of our nutrition, oxygen. Essentially, every cell needs it, and if the cells aren't getting it, they deteriorate. So, just from the perspective of normal living and health, it's definitely one of the worst toxins. Also, you got to consider that commercial tobacco and cigarettes are bombarded with all kinds of herbicides and pesticides and chemicals that stop them from going out when you're not puffing on them and all kinds of things. The effect of those going into your lungs is, it's known to be carcinogenic or cancer producing, but there's the yet unknown aspect of it. So I consider, yeah, polluting your lungs to be one of the worst things you can do.
Mm.
Then
And just going on from what you said there about obviously uh, the quality of air is everything, and you just mentioned something about being in nature. Like I live in London. I'm sure there's like lots of people here who are living in big cities. Do you think when you're living in a big city that it's going to be harder or more challenging to reach those levels of potential just due to like the environment, and also like I think London's got one of the worst air qualities in the world. So again, do you think that's going to contribute to making it a little bit more challenging for yourself?
definitely, just like cigarette smoke is going to be polluting your lungs. Well, in the city air, you have cigarette smoke, you have smoke from various things, you've got the fumes from automobiles, you've got chemical waste from factories around. So it's not just the smoke, but it's the same thing. You are polluting your lungs when you're out there breathing in the city. And
Mm.
in people who are living in the city, I say actually you're better off not doing some of the breathing techniques until you go for a walk out in nature, or at least in a park or somewhere where you've got this exchange of nature where the plants will be taking your carbon dioxide and giving you oxygen. If you can measure the air quality and the amount of oxygen and CO2 and other things in the city, you might be shocked at what you're actually breathing. And look at the health quality of most people. It's not very good. Most people have some kind of problem, and as you get older, you start to have degenerative diseases and various things. And air quality and lack of breathing is part of that. So,
Oh, can I just ask one more thing? Um, this might be a question for you as well, Octavio. But I read this book recently called Breath. I don't know if you guys have seen it. One sec, or heard of it. It's this one
Uh-huh.
by a guy called James Nestor.
mm,
So it's a really interesting book, but it's all about how you can heal through the power of breathing.
yeah,
But he puts a massive emphasis on the problem is when you breathe through your mouth, it can actually make you sick. So nasal breathing is like the real key factor. Um,
yeah, totally agree.
you, yeah. So okay, I just wanted to ask if you both
Yeah,
sort of concur with that. Like
does he mention the prana aspect? He should.
he doesn't mention prana because he's not a yoga person, but he talks a lot about he does talk about pranayama in this book. But there's just loads of uh, there's just loads of case studies on how people have used the breath to heal everything from like extreme cases of scoliosis to like other illnesses, and how it's not really documented that much, and it's
Yeah,
just kind of it just generally touches on just how I guess we all know this anyway, but even though breathing's probably the most important thing we do, no one ever sits there and teaches you how to breathe.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I was just wondering if you if the nasal breathing is a key component in general from the yogic perspective as well.
From the yogic perspective, the nose is how we absorb the prana. And prana is not a mystical, magical, yogic thing. Prana is charged particles in the air. And when you're in nature, here there's a high level of oxygen. The oxygen
Mm.
molecules have extra electrons. Now, electron is taking us into waves of possibilities, the energetic world. Prana is the same thing as electricity. It's made of free flowing electrons. They're attached to the molecules in natural air. When you breathe through the nose, your olfactory bulbs have 50,000 nerves in each side that take in these electrons. This is the prana. It's an energy flow that goes straight into your brain and activates the brain. It creates a higher sense of enthusiasm and optimism mentally while it's charging your nervous system. Meanwhile, the oxygen is going down into the lungs and into the bloodstream. So there's a dual nature in the yogic perspective. Breathing is called pranayama. It's about the prana as much as about the oxygen. But regarding just breath and oxygen itself, this is what I use because I have healing programs where people come here with whatever terminal diseases and I teach them how to breathe and I push them into breathe more and more every day. And in a few weeks, the cancer has gone into remission. I've seen this happen a dozen times. That's just breathing. Well, I don't even talk about prana because these are not yoga people. They're people who have serious diseases and they haven't come into a solution or they're considered hopeless by medical. But breathing completely changes things around. And that's just raising your oxygen level way above normal and keeping it there for a period of days. And your healing forces just come up and start doing everything they are designed to do, heal the body.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cool. Thanks, Oscar. All right, I've got a question from Miss Ferry Tan down here. Ferry's asking about Dave. What do you think about the pipe-built pyramid structures that you put in your house for the purpose of meditation? You know how you sometimes have those almost like kind of A-frame. I think that's what Ferry means.
Yeah.
Just, those pipe-style things that you'd sit in and meditate. Do you feel like that has any positive impact to be inside that shape, even if it's not a solid shape.
Yes, I do. It's geometry.
Yep.
And the structure of a geometry is like an antenna. An antenna isn't a solid thing, it's just wires, and in a certain configuration, they pick up certain energy. And the pyramid shape, the geometry of the pyramid, is tapping into creative power of the universe, an awakening creative power that can be used to great advantage. That's why this is the Pyramid Yoga Center. And studying in that pyramid as you did
Yeah.
helps to awaken and bring things up. So these structures, even if it's just a tube or copper tube pyramid or something. I mean, I've made them out of wood when I first started building pyramids back in the 70s, and they have an effect.
Yeah.
And in your own brain cells, there are neurons that are connected to willpower, which have pyramidal shape.
Wow.
Been researched and discovered, and okay, there's a connection. So if you're sitting in a structure that is pyramidal in shape and you're tuning into your own willpower or whatever, these connections are a reality of the universe, and why they built temples and pyramids in the way they did is because it has an effect on us. So even if it's a simple structure, it will have an effect.
Cool. Yeah, the thing that really convinced me of that, I mean, I believed it anyway, but the real convincing thing was once when I was with you in Thailand, I'm not sure if I ever told you this, but I went up to the pyramid when it was pitch black. It must have been around midnight or something. And, I was just so full of myself and just thought I was king of the world. And so I lay down in the middle of the pyramid, just, all pumped full of arrogance. And I remember thinking to myself, even if a snake fell on me, I wouldn't even move. Boom! Right as I had the thought, I don't know what it was because it was pitch black, but it was big enough that it hit me physically. Something fell from the roof, and I absolutely just shit myself and just ran through the jungle, just screaming. And I'm pretty sure the scream was a high pitched one as well. You probably heard it. So after that, I thought I'm gonna
Power of manifestation.
exactly. I thought I'm gonna be very careful with my mind inside of this structure. I'm gonna be very careful with the things that I think.
Yeah, I would probably say I think it was a gecko.
Yeah, that's what I think. But still, yes, still, it was funny. Now it was terrifying at that moment.
Yeah, it would be. Middle of
Cool.
the night.
So, Greg, I'll get to you in a second. Just Sue Ellen's got one here. She's just asking if, in terms of Oscar's question regarding the cigarettes, if it's the same for weed, if it sort of affects the lungs and immunity in the same way as cigarettes do.
To a lesser extent, and with weed, you can have some more positive sides of it. Can relax you and allow you to see and feel more things. So used as a medicine, it can be okay, but that's something you do occasionally. And
Yeah,
as soon as you start doing something over and over again on a daily basis, then your body has to deal with the residual smoke and try and clean it out of your lungs. So in moderation, again, marijuana can be a good medicine that can be useful in feeling your body more, discovering more about it, and even in a meditational states, having a clearer perception of something. But only if it's done periodically.
mm,
Even doing it every day is one little puff a day is too much because the mind needs to process, the brain chemicals need to readjust, etc.
cool, perfect. All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, so Greg has a question. Greg, I'm going to unmute you, brother. There you go.
Yeah, cool. Hey David, how you going?
All right, hi Greg.
Yeah, nice to connect with you. I was just curious. You sent out an email today actually about Yoga Union and stepping away from Yoga Alliance, which is
Oh yeah.
I reckon it's, it's super cool. Like I've always intuitively sort of wanted nothing to do with Yoga Alliance, and I understand you guys as studio owners have had to sort of go that direction to run your businesses. And I know you're thinking of heading in the same way as David, and it's just super cool and inspiring because it's just I just do not like what they're about at all, and what's happening with yoga in the West. So I guess I was really interested in the Yoga Union. I went to their website and it seemed to be like a physical space in New York City, but in your email it sort of alluded to the idea that it could be a platform for us to connect. So I was just curious sort of how that worked.
We're building on it. It is a website, yogaunion.com, and it's for people who see the reality of yoga to share ideas and to join in and bring more light into the reality of yoga as a whole spiritual, mental, physical process of evolution, which again, like I said in that email, like 20 years of Yoga Alliance squashing down and just reducing it to a fitness thing is just blasphemy. Let's say it's just degrading yoga. It's an amazing science of understanding human reality. And as I said, it's totally connected to the modern research in quantum physics, etc. The chakras in quantum physics are all talking about the same thing. It's energy, and we need to wake up and realize that. And we don't do it by going to a Yoga Alliance studio where people are just making sure you do the posture correctly. No one questions what you're thinking. So
for sure.
Go ahead.
Do you think, is that going to be like a forum that we can connect into somehow? Or are you looking for people to offer services on it? Like, is there a way to directly communicate with people through the website? Or
yeah, as it's set up, there will be whatever communication platforms and sharing news, and ideally people who have experience in yoga can share some of their experiences, not in a huge book form, but in things that have happened and how it has helped you, and helping to inspire people to get into the practices of various aspects of yoga, different forms that are more beneficial than just being flexible.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, cool. So it's a bit of a work in progress at the moment. We can look forward to seeing some more.
Yeah, but there's 2 or 3 people other than myself working on it, so we'll have it up and running pretty soon.
Awesome. I really look forward to being a part of it. That sounds amazing. And just quickly, you mentioned on your last session with Oc, the Ekadasi was being offered online, but I had a look on your website. I think I shot you an email the other day, just recently, maybe yesterday, to wondering how to. Are you offering the Ekadasi online or?
Yeah, we do it online. We've got a few people doing it, and more people joining every day or two, actually.
Yeah. So how do you connect into that? Is there somewhere online where you can sign up? I just couldn't find a link or anything.
Did you go to chakrayoga.com?
I think I was on Chakra Yoga. Yeah, it was either that or Pyramid, but I think it was Chakra. Yeah.
Yeah, Pyramid is more about this place, and Chakra Yoga is about everything that I teach. Because this place is also hosting ecstatic dances and other kinds of workshops. So Chakra Yoga is more, that was my original site, and where I have more information, and there's a online education tab in there that you can go down under learning, and I think just a second, I'll ask Joanna. Is that how they sign up?
He can send you his email.
You can just send me your email and we'll link you into it.
Yeah, cool. I did have a look on that in that tab that you're talking about, and I just couldn't quite find it. So yeah, I did send you an email. So maybe send us a link if you get a chance. I'm really keen to check it out.
Okay.
Say your email.
Yeah, my email. Yeah, it can be just david@chakrayoga.com.
Okay, I'll send you an email. Thanks, David.
Okay, welcome.
Cool.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Greg. So, Shireen, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So my question is about psychedelics. And you were talking at the beginning of this call about the illusions of the mind and how, like, when I see you, it's just like an illusion. Eh? I think like that what you also see on a psychedelic uh, uh, experience isn't it just another illusion? Because, for example, just a few days ago, one of my friends were telling me that she saw the shaman as a devil in mushroom ceremony, and nobody really knows what the devil looks like, if he even exists. But she saw him as the devil, and for me, it was like the guy was talking about Lucifer and about how Lucifer is his teacher, and he was a bit strange. But from what I heard, I wasn't there, but I heard from several people, and he took somebody's cell phone and called 666 and hello God and things like that. So when you see this before, yeah, really, honestly, when you see this before a psychedelic experience and then you take the mushroom or whatever it is that you are going to take, it's normal, I guess, that your mind will be like, okay, you would see the shaman as Lucifer because your mind have already made some associations from what the guy said or did or whatever. I don't know. I think it's just another illusion of the mind. My personal experience with ayahuasca was actually, I've never seen anything. It was more energetic. I was feeling things, and it was always around fears and stuff. It was never like, uh, 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 angels and fairy tales and dancing with I don't know what, the things that I heard from other people. But it was all energetic, and all I could feel was actually like I felt a lot of fear, and I know that this fear is coming from inside of me. This is my own personal experience, but no, like, visions and things and stuff. So is it just another illusion of the mind that would just teach you that what you see is an illusion? Or how is it a teacher? Because I know that everyone who works with psychedelics, they always look at psychedelics as teachers, and they say like it's a plant medicine. So how is it a medicine, you know?
Well, it allowed you to see that you have fear. Okay.
Yeah, this I
That
know,
way, and then
but
it's showing you that you need to deal with this fear. The fear is the layers of your own personal stuff that are in the way of going deeper into the experience where everything can dissolve into mosaic kind of fractal energy patterns, which is closer to the reality than the illusion that our senses see. But still, beyond that, there's layers of illusion until you withdraw from everything and there's only consciousness left, which is the final stage. But as long as you're in the buddhi, the cosmic mind, there are patterns and waves of energy that format into things and beings and experiences, and seeing the shaman as Lucifer and all these visions and even all the visions you can have in dreams. Sure, none of it is absolutely real. Only consciousness is the final reality. But in the meantime, the difference between dreams, hallucinations, what we think of as reality, it all passes. So the reality of this world is something that will pass, like it or not. And like I was saying to Octavio in the beginning, when you leave, your consciousness departs from your body and your body decomposes. Where are you? You're still in existence. You're in another part of existence, and it's another perspective on your existence. And then you look back at this. When you wake up out of this, or what we call dying, you look back and say, wow, that was just a dream. Right now you're in it, and it seems to be quite real. But all of the ancient traditions were pointing to there is a greater reality beyond this. And in religious methods, you go into these higher places, you go to the kingdom of heaven or whatever it is. In yoga, you go beyond this realm and into a greater dreamscape made of energy, but you are directing the energy into whatever you wish. It can be the kingdom of heaven, everything you've ever wanted, but all of that is still another layer of illusion. But it's fun being a child, playing an illusion and building sandcastles and doing everything we do. It's supposed to be fun. And then you lead to a place of more fun, more enjoyment.
So you would say that those illusions are just another layer, but like not everyone who goes on a psychedelic experience goes very, very deep to the point of like, everything dissolves and there's only consciousness. Some
Yeah.
people go to a stage where they just move from one illusion to another illusion.
Yeah, something like that. Illusions and delusions. And again, as the medicinal plants, they show you something about yourself. You saw that you have fear. Other people will see the demons and see other things that have some meaning for them. And then when you go beyond all of your layers of psychological stuff and emotions, you can come to a place of perceiving. It's one big, very colorful, electromagnetic, moving kaleidoscope that's beautiful and feels wonderful. And you can go beyond that into the consciousness that is observing that, going even further into observing nothing and being in a state of bliss.
Okay. Awesome.
So beware the shamans who are calling 666.
No, this was really like surreal, and I'm like, what? And hello, God, and it was like I heard the story from several people who were at this ceremony, and it was really like, what? And of course, like some of the people, the thing is, I don't think that psychedelics are for everyone, because I mean, some of the people who were there got really, really disturbed. And of course, they did not move beyond that. What they saw or what happened was like, it's to bring them something about themselves. They were just still in the state of mind whether this shaman is good or bad. And
Yeah,
this is why I say that really psychedelic experiences should be like should not be offered to everyone, because not everyone is really ready for a psychedelic experience. Like I have done ayahuasca several times. That's the only medicine I did. But for now, I'm telling myself that this is not for me right now,
yeah.
because I just not I could really understand how intense this is, and you really, really, really need to be ready for something like this. You just don't
That is the
do it
point.
because you want to try it.
Point is being ready. And what you can find with the yogic technique of contemplation and doing ekadasi and whatnot is that you are preparing to go to this higher state. And then you can take an ayahuasca journey, or you can just keep going with yoga and you will
Yeah,
eventually get to the same place. But if you have
absolutely.
no preview of where you're going, it might be more difficult to get there. So the preparation is the biggest thing for any of these journeys. And in yoga, what you're doing is kind of preparing your body and your mind to naturally get to these places, at which time they become your home base and you're in this state of enjoyful happiness that you have worked for and achieved. And you don't lose it because the effect doesn't wear off.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Shereen. So let's do one more. Seba, I think you've got a question, right? All right, go for it.
Hi guys.
Hey, Seba.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
welcome.
So I spoke to Octavio about this briefly yesterday. There's a student of mine who I've been seeing for the past 2 years, who has a disorder, an autoimmune disorder, where it's a like a progressive nerve degeneration, where it just started with like a foot drop kind of thing, and now he's at the stage where he can't move any of his limbs or his fingers or his toes or anything like that.
Sounds like multiple
And now it's
sclerosis.
also, sorry.
Sounds like multiple sclerosis, MS.
Yeah, but he hasn't been diagnosed actually. They're just speculating different things constantly. Like
Yeah.
he keeps getting different ones. I don't know. And
Yeah.
now it's his throat and his tongue, and so it's hard to talk even.
Mm,
So I have a two-part question. One side is just very practical, like if you have any advice on what he could do. But the other side is also how he can manage, or like me with him also, just managing the mental aspect of it, because he comes up, of course, with lots of questions on like why this is happening in the first place and all of that. And the thing is, I do believe in the healing power of illness, but it's very hard to speak to these things sometimes when someone is really suffering. To say something like, "Oh, the message is right there. Just look deeper," or like, um,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's just insensitive sometimes to talk about like, "Oh, it's your karma," or like something like that. You just need to just hold space and just be gentle sometimes. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I
And
was just
also
wondering.
offer some simple techniques that they can do. And I have dealt with people who are all stuck in a wheelchair, could hardly move at all, and just helped them to move, but with consciousness. And I got them to breathe as they were moving. I would say, breathe in and breathe out. And I was moving their hands because they couldn't at first. And then, but they could feel their hand moving. And by consciously making the connection with their hand was moving and feeling it, they regained within a couple of weeks the ability to move their hand. So the
Wow.
question of consciousness and working very delicately with these people with a hands-on approach, you have to really help them to regain step by step control of their body, which is being lost because of, you can go into different psychological reasons, which I have discovered in MS, when your immune system actually attacks your nervous system, that you have an inner conflict somewhere. Part of you doesn't like what you've been doing, and your immune system is trying to stop you from doing it. So it prevents you from doing. And this is a psychological key to the whole MS syndrome. And in dealing with people, gradually get them back. If you can start them to see some improvement, and then start looking at what have you been doing with your life, and like Ekadasi brings up a lot of stuff from the past about what you've gone through in childhood and teenage years and whatever, and then you as a teacher look for conflicting things that have happened in life. Conflict and feeling guilty and bad about something you've done is going to initiate autoimmune disorders, where your body actually is turning against you. There's psychological, emotional causes for it. That people, if you put it, to their face, they're gonna say no, no. But if you can start by just helping them to move and oh, okay, it is possible to roll things back. And again, like I said, this woman who was in a wheelchair and couldn't even hold a glass of water, after a 2-week intensive program, was getting up out of her wheelchair and walking with a little bit of help, walking across the room. So haven't done that in years. So I've seen the possibilities there with autoimmune disorders, and I was also dealing with her emotional, psychological issues of relationship and whatnot. So it's all together in the whole mind body medicine thing.
So would you say it's a matter of, like with the emotional stuff, is it a matter of just bringing it to the light? So just as soon as they realize that there's this inner conflict, and they kind of pinpoint what it is that enough to resolve it? Or do you have to do something once like once you've spotted it? What do you do then? Or is that enough?
You breathe your way through it. The emotion can come up and the feelings, and you keep breathing. What these things do is the traumas tend to inhibit your breathing. Even if you're trying to breathe deep, you only go to 60% because something stops you, and it's an emotional blockage somewhere. By breathing, you bring it up, and by breathing through it, you can dissolve the inhibition it has on your healing system. So breathing has a lot to do with working your way through these things. How is this fellow or woman dealing with the breath itself? Have you looked at how they breathe? What the
Yeah, I
of
mean,
their lungs?
his breath is actually maybe the best part of his experience of life. I mean,
Mm,
like he can't feed himself, he can't go to the bathroom, nothing, you know.
mm,
But his breath has been developing consistently as we practice. He's been getting better, but in the last month, it's been getting worse, and that's really like, I feel like that's been like an alarm bell for him and for me also as his teacher. It's just been like, it's like the thing that you had, you know. And now I don't know. I wonder if it's like just because the degeneration has gotten to a point where I think he's really starting to get scared, and so he can't. Yeah, he just can't breathe as well as he could at all. And he
like
was quite
struggles.
clear and quite powerful with his breath.
Uh, yeah. So also another possibility is that the breath that he has been doing has brought up the issues that have created the emotional and psychological issues that he doesn't want to look at. So
Mm.
you pull back and go into a state of fear. And what I do when people come here for an intensive program of healing is I sit and breathe with them and help them to breathe. And like Diana was her name in the wheelchair, just helping her to move until she gets the feeling of moving, and one step at a time.
Mm.
But, but fear becomes a great obstacle and will cut back your breathing. The fear itself, that you said, now he's feeling fear because symptoms are getting worse. And if it's getting right down into his throat and his breathing, then it's probably something called ALS, which is one step.
Yeah, that's one of the things he got diagnosed with. Another one was just like progressive degenerative nerve
Mm,
atrophy or something like that.
yeah, they come up with great titles, but not, not much solutions. It's an incurable disease. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's
And they ask him things like, "Has it gotten to your throat yet?" Like this was like a year ago, and he's like, "What?"
yeah.
Yeah.
So there, when it gets to the throat, then the breathing, and I don't know if he can do Om, but vibrating with your throat, and that might.
Yeah, we've been doing that. We've been doing that, but now even that, like even his speech, his tongue is just so, it's just so heavy now. Like even he can't roll his R's at all. He can't. Yeah, it's just really just getting really bad.
Yeah, well, it sounds pretty advanced. That
Yeah.
can be rolled back, but it will take a major effort on his part and your part to fix up
Yeah.
the situation and make it seem or look like, oh yeah, it is possible. Because the belief system around the possibilities is another important part of it.
Mm.
So good luck with it. You talk to him about where he goes next and what's beyond this lifetime.
Briefly, but sometimes it's just like just so much emotionality, you know, like just like tears and stuff. So it's hard to get through, you know. It's
Yeah,
hard to, yeah. But yeah, thank you.
you're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
So, all right, Tim, Sue Ellen, you have a question? Go on.
Yes, I do. I think everyone wants to have Dave's vitality, you know, like when you imagine yourself like getting older and say like, wow, I'm really strong. And the last thing you were saying that you were still climbing trees. And I was like, yes, I want to be like that. And my question is about the Maha Yoga Pranayama, if it's something that you do every day. I mean, like some tricks, because in the Swami Gitananda book, he says that you should start doing it for 9 times and then 18 and then 27. And I find it really hard to expand the side ribs. Like I cannot feel it, like this expansion yet. And I was following your tutorial to do that, and I found it so hard. And so, yeah, just your thoughts about this and this practice. And I try to do my best, but still cannot feel it, this expansion in my side ribs. If you have some, yeah, tips for
Yeah.
and if it's something that you do every day,
Well,
because we are also studying with Octavio another part of mudras and kundalini and all a lot of stuff. So if I can like incorporate all these things together and like be super powerful.
breathing is something you can do anytime. And actually, if you get someone, where are you? Are you in Bali or something? Or
No, I'm in Italy. It's pretty cold now.
okay. I was gonna say, if you're close by, what we did when Octavio was training with me, sometimes we put people down on the floor and someone helps you to push your ribs in when you're exhaling. And then when you begin inhaling, they take their hands off and your ribs automatically start moving out. This is very helpful. I've used that with a lot of people who are having difficulty with the midsection breath. Is you make the ribs move. And just like with the woman with MS, once you start feeling your ribs move, you somehow connect with the intercostal muscles that make them move, and you gain the ability to expand and contract in this middle section. So get someone to.
You mean with the belly down, just in a crocodile pose, like?
No, you're lying down.
Face up.
Yeah, face up. I'll lie down on the floor here, if you can see me. Okay.
Okay.
I'm lying down here. You come and show me. Joanna's gonna come and push on my ribs. So, got her hands on my ribs, and when I exhale, she's squeezing in, putting the weight of her body.
Wow, cool.
Okay, that's simple enough.
Okay.
Somebody to help you do that. And then you can use your own hands and squeeze in. But
nice.
To keep moving and to feel the movement is an important part. And then you can take it away. And then coming back to your original question, when I wake up in the morning, I wake up early. I don't sleep a lot. I don't like sleeping very much. Actually, not much more than 4 or 5 hours or something. When I get up, I do 108 rounds of breathing, complete Mahat Yoga Pranayama. That's the first thing I do every morning. It takes me an hour.
Wow.
And if I use Savitri to do it, then it takes me up to 2 hours.
Wow.
But I enjoy every
108, okay.
I enjoy the act of breathing. To me, it becomes very sensual. And it goes into the tantric side of it begins to feel sensual to the point of almost sexual, this expansion, contraction. So and at the same time, I'm getting the benefits of really oxygenating my system, getting rid of all carbon dioxide, and I'm very awake and in a good state of consciousness as a result. And then I add, when it gets light, the sun comes up, I do another hour and a half of Hatha yoga, Egyptian style dancing yoga with breath all the way through. And then various other times of the day, I take breathing breaks and I'm conscious of my breathing. So I would say that I'm doing Mahat Yoga Pranayama probably 4 hours a day. And
wow, that's next level.
well, yeah, but you just train yourself to add a little bit more. From Swamiji's 9 breaths and 18 breaths and 27 all the way up to
Yeah.
108, all of which is another mathematical proportion.
Yeah, and then he says that just to reach 27 rounds, you're probably gonna take 1 year like of experience, you know, and doing it every day. So I can
Yeah.
imagine it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, but the work is beneficial. You're gonna reap the rewards, and this vitality and the aging process just gets kind of pushed back to some other time because I'm busy now.
Wow, I'm gonna book
Yeah.
my tickets to Thailand.
Yeah, just gotta go through the quarantine to get here.
Nice, thank you. And in terms of diet, like, can you talk a little bit about this, like, for you?
Very these days, pretty much, kind of like I make smoothies. Where I live, it's a coconut plantation, except that all the monkeys have moved in. They're eating my coconuts, but I usually make coconut cream, and then I add a banana and a mango, and I make a shake, and that's my breakfast, and it lasts me part of the day. I eat maybe one meal a day, usually not a big one, of some kind of cooked food, maybe, but not every day. And right now I'm on a bit of a fasting detox thing where I'm cleaning out and just having mostly papaya and cleansing fruits and my smoothies.
Wow, very nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Oh. All right, thanks you guys. Amazing questions. Does anyone have any final questions? Oscar, you got another question? Yep.
I was at the pyramids of Giza about a month ago, and like I know you've been there because I heard it in the last Dharma session. And you know when you get up close and you can like feel there's like a really weird energy. It's very difficult to describe when you get up close to them. What is that?
It's an energy flow. The pyramids, the way they're designed, they take the energy of the 4 directions and create this upward flowing vortex that goes back up into the universe as far as Giza is concerned. But you can probably feel this energy moving, which most people not feel. They're busy tourists taking pictures of things, but if you're sensitive, you can notice this. And did you make it into the king's chamber at some point?
Is that the big one?
Yeah.
I got into the biggest pyramid. It's funny because I went before I listened to the Dharma session because there's nothing really in there apart from the tomb thing. And then you were like, yeah, you lie in it. And I was like, oh, why didn't I do that? Because obviously when I went, there's like no one there at the moment because of there's no tourists. And I was like, I can't believe I didn't sit there and meditate in there for like 20 minutes. Yeah, I did go in there. Yeah, I'll be going back at some point, so I'll do it again. But I just, is it like prana charged energy, prana charged air around the pyramids?
Yeah, there would be that too. You're dealing as much with electromagnetic forces, which and the magnetism of the earth. The absolute alignment of the pyramid is one thing that is connecting to these energies. So the electron, the prana, the electromagnetic waves of possibilities that are floating all around are just being conducted in a certain way. And because of that, it's a good place to be and to feel this energy and close your eyes and maybe feel it going right through you. So next time you get in the king's chamber, take a deep breath and chant Om.
Yeah.
In a low male frequency. The resonance is just amazing. And it will help you to transcend space time and go where the Egyptians went. They were universal travelers.
Just on that point, my friend did something like we took a photo in there, and when he took the photo, so he like put his phone up against the wall and used his like Apple Watch to take the snap. And above us was like all these sort of in the photo was like all these white diamonds. Obviously they weren't there from our eyes.
Yeah,
But
but they show up on.
yes, exactly. Yeah, it was. Sorry,
You
say again.
up in balls, but diamonds are okay too.
Yeah, yeah. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, all right. I'll chant Om next time for sure.
It's all part of the energy, right? You could feel the energy on the outside.
Yeah, yeah.
So good.
Cool. Thank
Keep
you.
doing it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Any last questions for Dave before we wrap up for today's Dharma download session? Good.
Okay.
All right, Dave. Any final words for today?
Membership.
Oh, Joanna just gave me a thing about an online membership to join and have classes and these talks, classes with discussions and talks every week and staying connected to whatever. I think, yeah, we're starting this week. And I think it's a really important time for people to really get into their practice to, again, connecting as we talked about the Laya Yoga Kriyas and these energy fields that we talked about in the pyramid. This is energy world is very real. Just because our senses do not see it, our senses are deceiving us into the illusion to take that as reality. But in yoga, with developing the inner vision, you start to see and feel and hear the rest of the energy world. We access this and bring it in and charge ourselves up. Science has revealed this over the last 100 years in the West. We need to take it seriously and not just throw it aside and give all this information to artificial intelligence and technology. We need to harness it and become empowered as humans. So take a few more deep breaths and connect to the energy world and keep your minds awake and your consciousness expanding. Cool. Nice talking with you guys. Good to see you again, Octavio.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much. Always wonderful. David, before we go, I wanted to ask, in addition to your membership program, do you think it might be possible, or is it allowed, that maybe on next week's session, do you think that you might be able to take us through stage 1 of the Laya Kriyas, maybe just as a little bit of a sort of a little bit of an introduction?
Yeah, definitely. We had talked about that before.
Okay, so let's do that. We'll have a little bit of a discussion, and you can tell us, a little bit about why we're doing it, how we're doing it, sort of like you did in a video, and then we can do a practice session together. That would be awesome.
Good, we do it. Important. So prepare yourselves, plug into the energy world, and we shall fly with it. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thank you, David.
Thanks, everybody.
Lots of love.
Thanks, guys.